Did you go backstage?
Oh, that's so funny. I love this man. Keel News Radio time is 7:12. Cedric Glover's in studio with us. Dan Keel is here. Robert's out sick, so I hope you don't mind. Dan's sitting in.
And she breached my agreement with her already because the camera's on.
Yeah. I did tell Dan we weren't going to do cameras, but you're here.
Can you represent me? You did a great job the other day.
Well, thank you.
This is kind of. Have y'all been in studio together, the two of y'all, before?
No.
You
Yeah, we have.
Have
Not this one. Not the
this
new
one.
one.
Okay, back in the old one.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we used to hang out across the hall.
Cedric was saying he was going to pull out his Bob Dylan pictures to show Matt. Got to meet him.
Yeah. I got to meet Fairtax Doug, so I win.
I carried the guitar case.
Oh, wow.
I bet you do make a hell of a roadie.
He was hanging out on the loading dock, and these sort of things happen.
Cedric Glover, the roadie. That's pretty good. Who is the most famous person you've met? Not political. I know you met the president and all that good stuff.
The most famous person I've met that I've never thought about that before. That's non-political.
Yeah. I know you've met a bunch of cool athletes.
Oh no. Oh, okay. Yeah, James Earl Jones.
Oh, wow.
James,
This is CNN.
Absolutely.
Oh.
James
Yeah, we could maybe
Earl
get a
Jones.
radio ID from.
Do you have?
Hands
do
down.
you keep the pictures like you?
Oh,
and
yeah.
all, you have like a room with all that stuff in it.
They're all on the phone.
Oh,
I've
that's
got
cool.
Nothing printed out or on the wall or anything.
Yeah.
But,
So if you steal his phone, you get his entire photo album.
and
Oh,
if you
wow.
get my what do they call them, the flash drives that I
Yeah.
back them up on.
Yeah, gotcha.
I got problems.
Okay, you are here to talk Elio Motors GM plant, and most importantly, what our listeners want to know about is where are the jobs? That's the question everybody wants to know. Paul Elio was here. Some of the folks from Racer Trust were not. Some were. The Commerce Committee met to talk about this. First off, tell us how that came about. How did we get the committee meeting here? You toured the plant. What'd you see? What'd you learn?
Well, let me first of all encourage everybody to take their eyes off of Elio. Elio is the shiny bauble in this that served as the effective distraction. The real entity, the real group, the real people that we should be focused on are the Racer Trust. The Racer Trust is the bankruptcy trust that was created in the aftermath of the General Motors bankruptcy, that was given the specific charge to figure out how to take the 89 former GM properties and the communities where they're located in and return jobs.
You're not saying that the boogeyman is Stuart Lichter?
I'm saying that Stuart Lichter is certainly a part of that, but the folks who facilitated that from a governmental standpoint, from a legal standpoint, are Elliot Laws and Bruce Rasher.
Those are the guys that weren't there.
Those are the guys who were not there. And so that you understand this, and I brought a couple things.
Yeah.
I gave you guys a copy of a letter.
How do you get from Racer Trust to the Caddo Commission gave the money to buy the plant?
Well, and also understand this: the acquisition of the plant, the local control of the plant, the local influence of the plant is something that was always envisioned, because what you wanted to do was to not have a guy like Stuart Lichter, who's a billionaire who lives in a beautiful palatial estate out in Malibu, California. You don't want that guy being the sole deciding factor and influence in terms of the future use of the plant. Because why? Lichter is focused on money. Us local folks are supposed to be focused on what was lost, and that was jobs.
People who are just getting on the train. Stuart Lichter does what?
Stuart Lichter is the owner of Industrial Realty Group.
Mm-hmm.
Shreveport Business Park, which is the
Delaware Corporation.
exactly, and which is the leaseholder at the GM plant and the original owner of the plant, was sold to Shreveport Business Park by the Racer Trust, the bankruptcy trust, and in turn they sold it to the Caddo Industrial Development Board. The Caddo Industrial Development Board in turn turned around and gave them an exclusive, very horrible lease, which shields them from a tax liability, but also gives them ironclad absolute control over the plant.
And the financier that they mentioned the other day didn't get named
in terms of the
money to buy the plant in the first place.
Well,
that's the Caddo Commission.
That's the Caddo Commission. Yes, those dollars come from the reserve funds of the Caddo Commission, which was passed along to the Industrial Development Board, and the Industrial Development Board in turn paid those dollars to the Shreveport Business Park.
We got to take a break here, but I know you toured the plant. I want to know, because this had $1 billion worth of equipment. I mean, it was $1 billion facility. I'm curious what's gone. What's missing, and we'll try to simplify this in terms of we want the jobs. What do we have to do? from this point forward. That's coming up next. And by the way, you can text us if you have questions for Cedric, Representative Glover, 318-392-1884, 392-1884. Keel News Radio Time, 7:17. That is not Zach Brown.
That's ZBB.
I swear it is.
Yep.
Look it up. Zach Brown, heavy as the head.
Keel News Radio Time, 7:22. Robert's on vacation. I'm here. Aaron McCarty, my buddy Dan Keel in studio. Matt's in the terrarium. And Cedric Glover is in the hot seat, state representative, former mayor. It's a cool seat
And
today.
part-time lawyer.
Absolutely.
There were some hot seats yesterday, Commerce Committee meeting.
I'm accustomed to hot seats.
I know you are, and you're good at it. And you toured the GM plant.
He got in, we didn't.
Mm-hmm. I could have gone with him yesterday, but I think y'all went in 9 o'clock or right.
Yes, we
pretty
did.
early.
Okay.
So,
But now you do know that they attempted to force us to sign non-disclosure agreements there were two non-disclosure,
Just to have an open meeting?
There were two non-disclosure agreements that were attempted to be forced upon the committee. One of which was by Paul Elio, and the other of which was by Stuart Lichter and Shreveport Business Park and the Industrial Realty Group. They wanted us to sign non-disclosure agreements just to be able to tour the plant.
wow.
It lets you know just how crazy and idiotic so much of this is. I mean,
You didn't sign, obviously.
obviously we did not.
Right.
But it lets you know just how problematic this overall situation is, because to be asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement just to simply take a tour, I don't know what could be proprietary about coming in and seeing basically empty buildings.
It's not like
Yeah.
you're an industrial spy.
Exactly.
Did you
I mean,
get-
I'm not going to take pictures and then go back and reverse engineer something. Right?
Did-
not
did-
that the Elio would need to be reverse engineered. of
Did you
course.
get into a bunch of the buildings, and what did you see?
We saw basically empty space. You saw a lot of you saw the area that they've supposedly set up that's going to be their assembly line. That's on the YouTube video that they released a couple of months ago. And then over in the stamping plant, you saw where they have essentially unbolted the various welding robots and those sorts of things. It almost looks like something from a sci-fi movie. Kind of look like praying mantises or something, a manti, whatever the plural would be. But the buildings themselves appear to be in relatively good shape. Lots of dust and lots of cobwebs and what have you.
What about conduit and facilities, part of the infrastructure, what would normally be an immovable?
All of that appears to be because some of the concerns that we had was whether or not there was the stripping of copper wiring and those sorts of things.
That's
what have you.
unfounded?
To the extent, because we were there less than an hour. And it was a walking tour, although some of us did ensure we had a cart because we knew we were covering a good bit of area. I would like for there to be a more detailed systems-wide tour and inventory by subject matter experts because, yes, it is possible that in the course of what we covered yesterday, that there are some things that could have been...
They could have shown you the dogs and ponies.
Absolutely. And we did insist that the media be allowed to come along. What was interesting was they would not allow them to bring their video cameras, but insisted that only still shots be taken.
Interesting.
Which, again, raises a red flag and tells me that there is something that could be amiss in it.
Who was driving the tour bus?
In terms of...
Elio? or
in
Lichters
terms of who
people?
conducted the tour?
Who was clamping this stuff down?
The person who is one of representatives of the Industrial Realty Group.
Okay, let's get back to what needs to be done now. Are these jobs salvageable?
Well, again, understand that the Elio concept, as I said, is the distraction. That was the bait that was used. Those 1,500 jobs that came along with the Stuart Lichter IRG offer is what was used to distract the community, in my estimation. Promise them jobs, but understand that the objective here is the control and acquisition of these facilities. The Elio concept is one that for anyone who would have done their due diligence, you know that it's unfounded and that it's improbable. As Paul Elio admitted on yesterday, he's been trying to lift this effort since 2008.
But now he's read a book.
Right, and he finally read a book that now shows him how to get through the innovator's dilemma. It's absolutely enraging when you realize this guy starts this in '08. He ends up in Pontiac, Michigan in 2010. Now he disputed this, but there's several credible media sources that report that he asked the pension board of the city of Pontiac for $200 million of their funds to help start up his venture. Now he says it was only $5 million. But again, anybody who's coming and asking for funding to start up an experimental three-wheel vehicle, and you believe that that's going to, as he told the folks in Pontiac, I'm going to hire 2,100 people here in Pontiac, comes to Shreveport 3 years later. And the important part is not just Paul Elio who's coming to Shreveport. Paul Elio is coming to Shreveport at the recommendation of Elliot Laws, who's the trustee of the trust created by the U.S. Bankruptcy Court to help to redevelop and reopen these former GM facilities.
Well, there was a conversation had about another entity. It wasn't named, but it was another entity that stayed in Houston that was ready to come and move their entire operation here.
Correct.
And that didn't happen.
That did not happen.
But it sounded like, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me, but it sounded like Elio was the fly in the ointment. Is that the case?
Absolutely. As I said yesterday, what you have is a company with $10 billion per year in annual sales that had narrowed down their choices of where it is that they want to do their expansion to Shreveport. They have eliminated other options. They are exclusively focusing on Shreveport. But because the bankruptcy trust folks are absolutely committed to the Elio project, they are telling Scott Martinez of the North Louisiana Economic Development Partnership, and they're telling Stephen Morey of Louisiana Economic Development that you guys, in order to be able to bring this $10 billion per year in sales and 4,000 jobs, 1,000 more jobs than the highest job total ever at General Motors. Not only are they going to bring 1,000 more jobs than GM ever had, they also need to build upwards of 900,000 more square feet, 900,000 square feet more of space. And they also need to acquire additional land.
We've missed that one, though, right? That's gone. So is there anything to do to get new jobs here?
We missed that. But see, here's the crucial point. And here's what gives us, from my estimation, the ability to unwind this based upon the failure of Elliot Laws and Bruce Rasher to exercise their fiduciary duty to the citizens of Shreveport and Caddo Parish by doing what was in their best interest, not was in the best interest of Paul Elio and Stuart Lichter.
We're about to run out of time. What now? What happens now?
Well, I'm hoping that based upon the testimony that was offered yesterday and the acknowledgement, again, you've got to go back to this point as well. How did you end up forcing some of the local folks to do this? You had Parish Administrator Woody Wilson admit for the first time that I know of publicly that part of what he was told as to why this scenario needed to go forward and no others could be entertained was because the bankruptcy trust says accept Elio and Industrial Realty Group or we're going to tear the facility down. Now, that's a cudgel. That's coercion.
That was a threat.
That's duress.
Right.
That's a threat. And for them to accept and believe that a set of assets that would take you hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild, that somebody is going to say either take an experimental three-wheeled unproven startup car or we're going to come in and reduce it to rubble, and the next time you see me I'll be here with a bulldozer. For you to accept that and believe that is something that I don't understand. I know what my response would be.
Right.
Well, a lot of people bought into it. And, I mean, you even got picked on a little bit because you were going to buy an Elio car.
Well, I felt as mayor that one of the things you want to do is
right.
show some support. But no, understand this.
You never believed you were actually going to get an Elio car.
No, but the conversation about the negotiations of this issue, and that's,
right.
again, a misrepresentation on the part of the racial trust folks and the Elio folks. And that is the information that was shared ended up going to the folks at the parish level. They bypassed us. We brought the racial trust folks to Shreveport. because the mayor's office was the first point of contact.
Right.
It was the folks at the parish who pointed out that the plant is not inside the city limits of Shreveport. So you shouldn't be talking to Cedric Glover.
Right.
You should be talking to us.
We're about out of town.
And that's when those folks started those conversations that put us in a position to lead us to where we are today.
Wow.
They didn't want me in the room.
Oh, I bet not. State Representative Cedric Glover, thanks for being in our room.
Always welcome in our room, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for your interest.